Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly recap. In the recap, I like to go over any news related to the old school RuneScape community this week. Now, this week, once again, we had a fairly small update, but there are quite a few important changes still to cover, including changes to the Grand Exchange tax. We are now getting a new tax rate, and a few new mechanics go along with it. We've also received a beta for the new PGA timer, as well as a few other things in this week's update. Thanks for watching. As always, guys, if you do find these helpful, always appreciate a like in the video. It really does help out a ton. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. So let's start off with what I think is the biggest change of the week, at least from my perspective, and the one I'm most interested in, and that is, of course, the change to the Grand Exchange tax. Now, the GE tax was originally pitched on November 4th, and at that time they pitched it at 2%. The idea is that it would be both a gold sink and a item sink, with a few other bells and whistles coming along with it, such as more bank space and a literal golden sink. So the main thing we're of course still missing here is the actual Grand Exchange tax itself, but in today's blog there are going to be some changes to it. So here's what they have to say. Originally we pitched a flat 2% tax rate, and while it is considerably lower than the rate used in other games, we've seen feedback raising concerns about the impact it would have on player behavior. While we don't mind players doing more direct player-to-player trading to avoid the tax, we'd still prefer not to push players back to the dark days of spamming Wave 2 buying raw lobsters 200 each. So we've therefore agreed to lower the initial tax rate to 1% and to cap the tax on a given item at 5 million coins. So that is a very significant change. For one, reducing the tax rate to 1%, well, that's cutting it in half, and the tax cap is also going to impact things as well. So let's start off with the tax rate reduction. 1% versus 2%. In the end, I think either of these might have worked, and we won't really know how effective each of these are going to be until it's in practice. Personally, myself, my own opinion here, I was more supportive of a 1% tax versus 2%, but I do acknowledge that there could have been pros and cons for both of them. Now, realistically, I think this number could change multiple times even after the tax is implemented, and you can make an argument that it is probably easier to lower the tax rate in the future than it is to raise it, but in the end, this is an integrity change, so they could kind of go either way with it. So the tax rate will be 1%, but also the maximum tax that can be taken at once is 5 million coins. So for example, if you trade a twisted bow, you're only going to pay 5 mil for that transaction. Without the cap, you would pay closer to 10 mil. So for hyper expensive items, the effective tax rate will be less than 1%, but overall will be much more likely to actually go through the Grand Exchange versus a player-to-player trade. Okay, so there are obviously going to be a lot of complex cases here, but in the end, the Grand Exchange menus will tell you up front how much money you can expect to pay from your tax. So on top of these changes, they've also agreed to exclude some items from the tax altogether. For example, most of these are tools used by new players, and bonds will also be exempt from the tax. So they have made some substantial changes to the GE tax rate, but what about the item sink mechanic? Well, they've seen some great suggestions, including rewards for Theater of Blood, other bosses, skilling, and even Treasure Trail. And while we agree these items all would benefit from a reduced supply, we want to start small. A shorter list will let us monitor the amount of money actually being sunk and any player behavior changes that arise from the tax. So it looks like for now they're not going to be adding any items to the list, and they're just going to kind of monitor and see how it goes. Now finally at the bottom here we have something really interesting. Now to help mitigate scammers, they're going to be offering a change to the trade menus that would prevent the accept button from being pushed for a few seconds after the other player changes the item. So this is to prevent players trying to swap out items quickly and do a scam that way. This is optional though, and you can opt out of it in the settings menu. Now at the bottom here, one kind of ambiguous statement. This project is making its way through development now and hopes to launch on December 8th. Now are they talking about the entire GE tax and the other changes, or just the trade menu? Just based on how things have been going lately, I would expect just the trade menu, but you know, it could be the whole thing as well. Now, beyond the GE tax, there are quite a few other impactful changes in this blog. Today, the beta for the new PGA timer is live. which means anyone who wants to try it out can go into one of these 4 following worlds: 401, 408, 409, or 412. So if you're in one of these beta worlds and you go into a singles area or a singles plus area in the wilderness, there will now be a PJ timer. So if you attack a player and kill them, for example, you will have 16 ticks or about 10 seconds before another player or monster can start attacking you. They've also limited a few activities that you can do when you're within the PJ timer. For example, you can't fish dark crabs or catch chinchompas. This is obviously to prevent players using the alt account just to get in combat to protect against other players. Now obviously this is aimed at PvP, but if you are a PvMer, now's a good chance to take advantage of a beta world. These beta worlds are separate profiles and they usually give you a maxed account with access to any gear you want. So if you want to try out some content there that you haven't done yet, good chance to do it. So on top of that, the beta for the new Android plugins has been extended to a second round of invites. Once again, jagex will only invite you in your message center box. So if you get a sketchy email, maybe don't click on it. This beta will be going until December 8th. Now we haven't talked about the Hallowed Sepulchre in a while, but there are a few issues with the high scores. Mainly that there are some obviously unobtainable times on there that were achieved due to a bug. Now, as far as I'm aware, this isn't the case of someone literally doing the Hallowed Sepulchre in 0.6 seconds, more so that they tricked the game to think they had, so they wouldn't really be abusing experience rates or higher amounts of loot, just exploiting the actual time record. Now, due to these issues, they are going to be resetting the Sepulchre high scores, as it can't be 100% sure which runs are legit and which ones were achieved due to bug abuse. So unfortunately, that is getting reset. Now in the last update, they added in some chat functions, but unfortunately some of them were not correct. So in today's update, they have fixed that and added in a new command for group Ironman players, which will be /G. Now at the very bottom here, there is actually a few pretty major changes that are kind of miscellaneous. Now first up here, they fixed a bug with the Din's Bulwark where the special attack was reducing the stats of targets twice as much as intended. Didn't realize that was a bug, but apparently it was. That said, if we see significant demand for stat reducing special attacks in the future, we'll consider adding new items to accomplish that. Now, probably one of the biggest changes of the update for Ironman is that the Ali Morrison store now has a right-click trade option on it. Thank God, this is so frustrating to go through all the chat options. If you've ever had to hop worlds to buy runes from him, it's an absolute pain, but now it is much easier. So anyway, that is it for all of the major changes this week. Let me know what you think about them, as always, down below in the comment section. I always love to read all the different opinions out there. Thanks for watching as always, guys, and I will see you next week. Now, before I go here, I want to give a giant thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to Sejuani's Flail, The Hybrid, Ocelot, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed at the Dragon tier. Means a lot, guys. As always, thank you for your continued support. Also, a giant thank you to Sir Rojas, Ryan Shady, Mexos, Base Titch, NDM001, and YoYoSub89 for all being subscribed at the Runette tier. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it as always. If you guys are looking for another way to support me directly, becoming a YouTube member is the best way to do so. You can become immortalized in all of my future videos, get access to a custom role in my Discord server, and get access to my video release schedule. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.